Hi guys, good morning. So here's your next lesson. We're continuing with dividing polynomials. This is the part one assignment that you guys had. If you notice, the previous video had, if you look at the parts that we're dividing, there's just one term, okay? So this one has a 9, this one has an 8. So it's just one thing that we're dividing by. Problem number 3 just had one term in the denominator, or my divisor, x. X, and then when we go further along, here's a number, but the point here is there was only one thing that was being divided. And then the last two problems, even though there's a 3 and an x, remember this is still considered one term, okay? So the first part of the video, the previous video, showed us how to divide by one term, okay? But in these set of problems, you'll notice that we're dividing, or the divisor has two terms in it, x and a 4. Remember, a term is anything that is being separated by an addition sign or a subtraction sign. Okay, so when we have two terms, all of your problems will have two terms. We're not going to do any that have more than two terms, because that gets even more complicated, which we're not going to cover in Algebra 2. But we do need to know how to divide when there's two terms in our divisor. Okay. All right, before we start this problem, we need to take care of some vocabulary, okay? Whoops. That you're gonna hear me say, okay? So I just need you to know what those different parts of a division problem are, okay? So first of all, let's look at just a little simpler problem, okay? Let's say we take 12, okay? And then we divide it by 4. So 12 divided by 4, the answer is 3, right? Okay, so what are the different parts of this? Okay, another way to write this is, we can say that this is the same thing as 12 divided by 4, and the answer is 3. Okay, so the different parts of a division problem are the number that you're dividing, in this case our numerator. We call this the dividend. I think I have a picture that explains this. Let me see. Oh yeah, here we go. So the number that we're dividing, or in this case the numerator, we call it the dividend. Okay, I sometimes just call it the numerator. Okay, and then whatever we're dividing by, this one's flipped backwards. Hold on, let me change it. There you go, I changed it. So we call this the dividend, okay? And then whatever we're dividing by, we call it the divisor, okay? Basically the denominator. And then the answer, we call it a quotient, okay? So those are the different words that I'm going to use. I like to use divide, numerator, denominator, but sometimes our problems are not written in the form of a fraction, okay? So yeah, so these are the different words. And also, here's another example. Another example would be, so this was example 1. Another example would be, let's say if you had something like this, 16 divided by 3, okay? We know that 16 doesn't go into 3, or 3 doesn't go into 16 evenly, right? There will be a, do you guys remember what it is whenever there's something that's left over in a division problem? We call it a remainder. I was about to say remainder, okay? So here I think I have, so for example 16, 3 goes into 16, I know 5 times, because 3 times 5 is 15, and then you have a remainder of 1, Okay, the reason is, so you have here, I think I have another video that I can use here. All right, example here. So you know that when you take 16, and this is using a long division, which is the method that we're going to use here. So when you take 16 and you divide by 3, we know the quotient or the answer is 5. So 5 times 3 is 15, and then when we subtract these two numbers, we get a remainder of 1. Okay, so just keep these different parts in your mind, and then I'll explain it to you more when we get into the problems. Okay. Alright guys, I think now we are ready to do the actual problems in our class today, in our work today, okay? Alright, so number 1. So we have here the numerator, or the, what do we call this, the dividend, okay? We're gonna write this out, x squared minus 4x plus 9, okay? And then we're gonna put the long division symbol, so you just write it like this, okay? Sometimes you'll see a little curvy, but this is fine. And then whatever we're dividing by, the divisor, we're gonna write it over here. So you have x plus 4, okay? And then now we're going to start dividing. So when we're using long division to divide, what we do here is we're going to take, and I'm going to use my little highlighter here, we're going to take the first term right here, x squared, and we're going to divide it by the first term right here, the x term. Just, we're going to take care of the 4 later, but we're going to look at these two. I like to just kind of have some space here to do my work, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take x squared, and I'm going to divide it by x. Where did I get this x squared from? From right here, my first term. And where did I get this x from? From my first term and my divisor, okay? And then, so x squared divided by x, you know that you can just take out an x here, take out an x here, and then you have just one x left. So the answer to this problem is x. Okay, so this is part of my quotient, my answer right here. Okay, where I'm going to take this and I'm going to write it. And notice that this has an exponent of 1 and my 4x here has an exponent of 1. So they're my like terms. So I'm going to write this answer right above the matching exponents. Okay, all right, so now what we do here is, in this simple problem, where did we get the 15 from? We took the 5 and multiplied it back by 3 and wrote the answer here. So 5 times 3 is 15. So that's what I'm going to do here as well. Okay, so I'm going to do x times x, which is x squared. Multiply this back out. X times x is x squared. X times x is x squared. Okay, and then now I'm gonna multiply x times 4, and I'm gonna write it here. Okay, x times 4 is 4x, positive 4x. Okay, and then now what did I do between these two numbers? I did 16 minus 5, and I got my remainder. Okay, we subtract these two numbers. So you do so this is how I write it. I write a minus sign here and just put a parentheses here, so you know you're subtracting everything here. So x squared minus x squared is equal to 0. Negative 4 minus 4. Okay, negative 4 minus 4. Be careful of your signs here. So you have here negative 4 minus 4, positive 4, is equal to negative 8. Okay, that's a little tricky here. You would think, okay, well, they just cancel out. They don't. We have to be mindful of the sign. Negative 8x. All right? Next, what I'm going to do is, actually, let me take out the 0, and I don't really care about the 0. So I have this negative 8x. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna um, take this 8x. Oh, I don't want my eraser, I want a highlighter. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this negative 8x and divide it by x. Okay, and I'm gonna do my work on the side here. So now I'm gonna do negative 8x divided by x, and that is equal to, well, we can do this. You know that the x's get crossed out, and your answer here is just negative 8. Now I'm going to take my negative 8. This is part of my quotient, meaning this is part of my answer. So I'm going to write this right here, and I'm going to place it with the 9 because they are my like terms. Okay, so I'm going to say minus 8. All right, and then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply it back out. So you have negative 8, and we're going to multiply it by this polynomial right here, my divisor. Okay? So when I multiply it back out, I have negative 8. I'm going to do negative 8 times, I'm going to take negative 8 times x, and I'm going to write it right here. Okay? So negative 8 times x is negative 8x. And then now I'm going to multiply negative 8 by 4, and I'm going to write it here. Okay? I forgot one step here. I have to bring down the 9. Okay. Alright, so negative 8 times x is negative 8x. Negative 8 times positive 4. Negative 8 times positive 4 is equal to negative 32. Negative 32. Okay? And then next I'm gonna subtract them. It's always gonna be a subtraction, so I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna put a subtraction symbol in the front, and then we're gonna subtract it out. So negative 8 minus negative 8, so negative 8 minus negative 8 is equal to 0, and then, which you don't have to write, okay? And then 9 minus negative 32 is 41, positive 41. And I don't have another number to bring down, so this ends up being my remainder, okay? This is my answer, so we call this the quotient. You don't really need to know the vocabulary for when you're writing the problem, but it's nice to just see the different parts, okay? So and these two are the more important parts because these are your answers. So now, how do we write this answer in our math space? Okay, so it set it up for you. I don't know why they put a bar down here, but whatever, that's fine, this part. So this number right here, you have x, and then plus, and then you have negative 8 here. And then here, when we multiply it back out, x times x is x squared. And then x times 4 is positive 4. And then this part is when we subtract the 2. So when we subtracted the 2, we got negative 8x. And then we have to make sure to bring down the 9. So plus 9. And then over here, then we multiply the negative 8 out. So negative 8 times x is negative 8x. Negative 8 plus 4. Sorry, negative 8 times 4 was negative 32. Okay. And then when we subtract these two out, we got a remainder of 41. So those are the different parts that MathSpace wants you to write. Okay, so the quotient was x minus 8, and we had a remainder of 41. Okay, submit. And all of the problems are going to be the same as the ones that I'm working are the same as what you have in your work assignments. So hopefully that'll be better for you guys to just follow what I'm doing here and then just define your answers as well. Okay. Number 2 is a similar type of problem. So what we did here was, I'm going to try to do this a little faster so that, you're not falling asleep on my video. So you have x squared minus 6x plus 8, and then we're going to divide it by x plus 5. Okay, so we're going to take x squared divided by x, and then we know that x squared divided by x, that's just equal to 1x. I'm going to write it here. And then you multiply it back out. X times x is x squared. X times 5 is 5x. Okay? And then, so that's what I'm going to put here. So this one, the first one is going to be an x. And then when I multiply it back out, we have x squared plus 5x. Okay? And then when I multiply, and then after I multiply it out, we subtract these two. So x squared minus x squared is 0, which we don't have to write. And then negative 6 minus 5, negative 6 minus 5, it's negative 11. So negative 11, but don't forget these are like terms. You have your x right there. And then we need to bring down the 8. So I'm going to just say plus 8. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take negative 11x and then divide it by x. Okay. Bring down the 8. So now I'm going to do negative 11x divided by x, and what happens here is the x's get crossed out and I have negative 11, which is I'm going to write here. Okay, so that's my negative 11. And then now I'm going to multiply it out. Negative 11 times x is negative 11x. Negative 11 times positive 5, that is negative 55. And then we subtract these two out. Negative 11 minus a negative 11, those cancel out. And then 8 minus negative 15. 8 minus negative 55 is equal to 63. Okay, and I don't have anything else to break down, so that is it. So which means that my quotient or my answer that I got is x. You don't have to do plus minus, you can just put minus 11, and then you have a remainder of 63. Okay. I know this can get confusing, but practice, and you can always let me know when you have trouble with it. Okay. So I'm gonna stop this video here, and I'm gonna make a new video for the rest of the problems. Okay.